Hi, and welcome to another episode of Spotlight on Success. Today we have Mike Gantz, who sits down with Zach Ziliak. Zach is attorney and managing partner at Ziliak Law Firm, which he founded 10 years ago. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary. Now, Zach has a really unique history. He comes from math, finance, and trade. So in this interview, you'll learn about how that influenced Zach to become an attorney, how that influences and helps his clients and his cases. They're also going to talk about legal, AI, finance and technology, or technology and finance, his passions, who he is. He's got a unique, interesting story. Not to mention that Zach is probably one of the nicest people that I know. He is a genuinely human, beautiful soul. And so, of course, is Mike. But I'm a little partial because he's my colleague. But I'll let you guys decide, and I'd love to know what you guys think of Mike and Zach. So enjoy the interview.
Thanks, Ginger. What a great introduction. Mike Gantz, Senior Director, Legal Solutions of BlueStar. I'm with Zach Ziliak. Zach is the owner and managing partner, founder of Ziliak Law. And we're here to talk about Zach and his experience and success and just get to know him. So, Zach, thank you for taking time to join us today. Appreciate that very much.
Please, thank you, and thanks also to Deirdre for setting this up. I appreciate it.
Well, let's get right into it, Zach. Everybody probably wants to know, how did a person with this diverse background that you have, both educationally and professionally, how did your background in math, finance, and trading influence your decision to become an attorney and subsequently to establish Ziliak Law? Let's start there.
Well, so the first half of that is harder than the second half, in that, let's see, you're right that I did start out in math and finance, went to grad school in math, did an MBA, worked at an investment bank, then a proprietary trading group for a time. So my first career was very much in the math and finance kind of space. Before, as you mentioned, changing directions, going to law school and becoming an attorney. Um, that part was I was just looking for a change, something where I felt I could give back more than when I was just managing money day and night. Nothing wrong with that. Loads of my clients are in that space. But personally, I was looking for something different. So a wider range of different activities than just working on numbers all the time. And that said, I missed it. So having gone to law school, I still tried to focus my practice on the same industry in which I had grown up. So working for a lot of finance folks, a lot of hedge funds, mutual funds, proprietary trading groups, very generally folks in the trading industry. And that's why I say the second half is a little easier, because I was at a great law firm before I founded this place and had a good time there, worked with a lot of great people and interesting clients and projects and such. But it so happened that their Chicago office didn't have this practice. That is, didn't do a lot of work on the finance kind of area. And we got to the time that I needed to start looking seriously at bringing in my own clients. I always thought my best ability to do so would be focusing on the industry I knew well. And that has worked better in this platform, where I could build the place around that idea rather than a place that has loads of good practices, but perhaps not focus on this.
Well, that leads us to maybe diving into the weeds a little bit, Zach. How has your experience in quantitative and automated trading impacted the legal services you offer in the investment management industry?
Got it. So, I mean, we do have other practice areas outside of investment management, um, but it is our single largest area. So, when I started this place, I was very focused on that one thing. My business card still says law for traders from lawyers who trade. And we hire attorneys. That is, back then we hired exclusively attorneys who came from sort of the trading background. We've expanded from that into a general notion of bringing on attorneys who either have or quickly acquire real knowledge of the industries they represent, rather than living just in this sort of ivory tower legal world. And in my particular case, that meant the finance and a little beyond that into, let's say, general business and corporate and in particular blockchain kind of spaces as natural extensions from that finance space I had known first. So you asked about quantitative trading, algorithmic trading, this kind of thing. There is still plenty of trading done that is not based on that kind of thing. People just have a gut feeling, or they look through papers, that is, they look through financial statements themselves and decide what to buy and sell, and more power to them. There are plenty of people who are very good at that and make a lot of money. But even the people who do it that way can sometimes improve their efficiency by at least having a spreadsheet or some kind of automated system that reads these things and does the same thing they're trying to do, but it gives them the advice they could have done in more time manually. And then there are strategies that inherently are algorithmic or are very time sensitive, so low latency strategies and such. And given my background in math and my background with quantitative trading shops and such, perhaps because of that, groups that do that same kind of trading have gravitated to our place. And I like being able to work with those. First of all, it brings back memories of the good old days when I worked in that kind of thing. But I like to think that our team is particularly well suited to clients in that space because we can advise them on operational risks, industry best practices, and such, not just the strict legal questions they send our way. So, no, we enjoy doing that. And there are plenty of people always looking to launch a new quant fund out there, and we're happy to help them.
I don't know if this is a segue or take off from that previous question, Zach, but are you able to discuss your involvement in professional organizations like the Chicago Quantitative Alliance and the Society of Quantitative Analysts and their impact on your career?
So that's interesting. Yes, those groups, and there are some other similar ones like that out there. I generally got involved with those during my trading era, or when I was not a trader or a financial engineer slash quant, at least because I had been one and because I was actively serving clients in that space. So those are industry groups for people who do a lot of quantitative trading or are developers, mathematicians, physicists who get into finance and try to work out the stochastic calculus that tells you how to price all of these things and how to risk manage all the trading that's going on there. So those are interesting groups. I enjoy them because of the math and the software development that was involved in them. Um, but I have kept up with them and indeed expanded my involvement with them as a lawyer because I'm often sort of the only lawyer in the room. So it's not, maybe only 3% of their questions have, but they feel they need a lawyer for. But I'm happy to be the one lawyer there to answer those 3%. And I think that has been a big part of my career, and I'd recommend it for other people who have interests outside of the law. That is, um, yes, you can focus on the law, and at the end of the day, that's what you do. But your ability to find clients and certainly service clients often hinges on your ability to understand what they do. And so, yes, I'm trying to go where the fish are and the fishers aren't, right? I want to be there where there aren't a lot of other lawyers, but it's also just flat what I enjoy doing. And it is an area that I think I can add value there because I understand their industry, understand their particular risks and challenges. And then when legal questions come up, I'm happy to be there for that as well.
How do you stay informed about the evolving fields of technology and finance, Zach? What emerging trends in the financial industry are you currently monitoring?
Got it. So, I mean, I do have alerts set up for various keywords, and I'm on mailing lists from the SEC and CFTC and things like this. So I hear about new regulations, and I do continue to go to conferences, some legal conferences, but also conferences just in the trading space. I mean, so like the Financial Industry Association has a big one here in Chicago every year, and also other places. So I'll go to these kinds of conferences to just see what people are talking about. Um, so we have been, that is as a firm, because we're now up to, I don't know, 13 or 14 attorneys and another about probably like 6 or 8 support staff of various types. And we have been involved, of course, in this finance space from day one, but in blockchain from like late 2014 and early 2015, we probably started our first big project for a fund that was investing in digital assets. We've kept up with that ever since. So one of the things that happened was this shift from traditional assets into a lot of digital assets, which leads to DeFi projects, NFTs, ICOs, just funds that are investing in digital assets, exchanges that want to provide um, ways to trade digital assets and derivatives on the same. So that has been a growing thing for quite some time. We've seen definitely a shift toward more quantitative trading. The departure of the floors. It used to be that people traded down on the floor. Much less that happens now. Just about all of it is electronic, which has shifted how people trade, how people decide what to buy and sell. Of course, of late, the big buzzword has been AI, artificial intelligence. That has grown leaps and bounds. Um, I'm not saying that people are using ChatGPT to decide what to buy and sell, but yes, having systems that monitor trading and try to find patterns rather than having a human go and decide what to buy and sell, that has been a growing area of late, and people just using AI in pieces of their trading decisions. So a lot of things happening, and then the regulators are trying to keep up with this. That's always a question. The regulators have to figure out blockchain quickly when it changes. They have to figure out quantitative trading and low latency trading. They have to figure out AI. All the changes that technology mean for the best of their efforts. There's a process through which regulations have to be approved, to be reviewed before they're finalized. That takes time. Time the tech industry doesn't necessarily take when it just develops the next thing. So there's always that race there.
I'm guessing that you sometimes wear your sales hat and have to think about how do I attract more business, and then certainly there's got to be a referral business out there for you. You've established yourself. Now people know of your reputation. You're a smart guy. You're in their particular field. Are you finding that referrals are pretty frequent these days?
That's a big part of our business sources. Yes, thank you. So, of course, referrals from existing clients. We're always grateful for those and clients who come back, but also a lot of referrals from attorneys who do other things, which, let's face it, most attorneys do other things. So, once again, just like the 3% that SQA and other groups you talked about there, I might I know hundreds, if not like over 1,000 attorneys, and they don't generally know a lot of attorneys who work with fund managers and such. And they might only once in a blue moon find a client who needs that. But we are happy to be the first call when that comes up. So someone who does family law finds out that one of their would-be divorce clients now also has this business along the side. Well, we're happy to help with that business if that's up our alley. So there is that. Certainly, we get referrals also from complementary service providers. So fund administrators, we send clients to them. We send fund managers to them, and they send managers back to us and such. And then, just like you talked about with those various industry groups, I can go there and meet clients that way, but also they'll refer like, I don't need a lawyer, but I know somebody who does. Or hey, I saw this lawyer at a conference last month. Yeah, he's somebody you should call for this. So we're always happy to get those kinds of calls.
I subscribe to the story that when you're looking for someone with a particular set of skills, as an example, who do you think your doctor goes to when he needs medical attention? That's the doctor you want to see. When clients of yours need the kind of expertise that you offer, they don't want to just open up the yellow pages, not that anyone does that anymore, but find an attorney. They need a specialist. And so my guess is that some of your professional colleagues know what you do and how you do it and how well you excel, that they say you need to call Zach.
Well, we try to keep a good reputation, like you say there. I mean, ours is not a business that has good return on investment if we buy a billboard. I mean, if we were, there are plenty of law practices that do. I
Right.
mean, personal injury attorneys, for example, famously, because anyone can get hurt. So it makes sense that they need to advertise for everyone because everyone is a potential client. It's not the case that everyone is a potential client for our fund business. Our other practice areas, like entertainment and media, not everyone is an entertainer. So that is, we have practice areas that target a particular clientele, and we can't find them by just like advertising outside. So yes, going to conferences, actively pursuing the kinds of people we'd like to have as clients, speaking at conferences, writing, so just SEO, just search engine optimization and general content development, so thought leadership, this kind of thing that really gets us in front of the right eyeballs, people who do the kinds of things that need lawyers like us.
Zach, can you talk a little bit about what maybe some of your most challenging cases have been as an attorney, and how have you addressed those challenges?
So, so there are two kinds of challenge. When you say most difficult, there are cases that come to you because you know on day one you're going to lose this case. Even the client knows we probably did the wrong thing here. In that case, they're challenging because the best you can do is sort of negotiate a good settlement and get out of these. We have our share of those people who say something went wrong. We know it happened. What can you do to like just minimize this? Let's solve the problem. Let's make our clients, that is my clients as happy as we can. Let's keep the regulators happy, given that something went wrong earlier. And we will try to negotiate deals that make get them in as good a situation as they can be, given what went wrong before they found us. So those are challenging in terms of you're not going to find some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when you come in a bad situation. The other kinds of challenging cases are the ones that are just novel, right? Like, oh, we have all these blockchain related cases, and there's not a lot of precedent out there because it didn't exist for very long. quantitative trading, all this low latency trading and such, spoofing charges and these kinds of things, that these just weren't issues a decade ago. And so now we have to figure out on the fly what the law ought to be like this. There's a lot of working by analogy, which is not a new thing. Laws always work by analogy as new technologies and new industries have grown, but it's just the growth rate, the rate at which AI and other things are expanding, has increased so that now there's much more of that, much more of flying by the seat of your pants. So we like that. We like working on those cutting edge cases. We have plenty of sort of, bread and butter, just that we do it all the time kind of cases too. But given the way, again, most of our attorneys either come from the industries they represent or have worked explicitly for one industry for their time here, so they really know what those industries face rather than just knowing the law. It helps them draw those analogies, helps them recognize what kinds of things you'll have to figure out. So when someone comes to us and says, I got in trouble over this, we can say, the law doesn't really say that because it was written at a time that technology didn't exist, and we might have an argument that what you did was reasonable or whatever. So we like being on the edge there, where we can make new arguments based on understanding of the technology in the industry.
Interesting. Zach, what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to careers in both law and finance, and how do you envision the future of that intersection?
So that's interesting. I mean, of course, by design, I know a lot of lawyers, and by design, because by choice, because of the people I represent, I know a lot of people in the finance space. But it's a relatively small intersection. That is, people who do both. But there are some. And plenty of people go to law school, then sort of think the grass is greener on the other side and go into finance. I know I have plenty of clients who used to be lawyers or picked up law degrees but never really did anything with it, which is fine. And I do think that in certain areas of finance, having an understanding of the law can be helpful. So you can really read and understand those contracts that you're entering into. I mean, derivative contracts, at their core, there are complicated things there. Think about like CDOs squared and such before the big collapse. You had to really understand all the economics, but also the law of that. So it helps in certain areas of law, certain areas of finance, to have a legal background. But people who came the other direction, as I did, people who started out in finance and then shifted into law, my advice there is parallel to what I'd say for other people who came from industry X and went into the law. Law school is not the year zero. You have skills, you have contacts, you have understanding because of what you did before, because of what you did in your earlier career, that puts you a lap ahead when it comes to being a lawyer. That is, you have a better chance of finding clients because you have those contacts, you know where to find people. But you can also provide many more services to your clients because you really understand what they do. Nothing wrong with people who went straight from undergrad to law school to law jobs. Plenty of people do this and are very successful. But if by chance you did have an earlier career, or you're doing it in parallel, the JD MBA combination or something, and then you spend a few years in finance before switching over, or you're just really into finance, the fact that you like that industry or other industries, but the fact that you understand what people in that business do, understand their language, understand their risks, understand their needs, I think makes it much easier to land clients and makes you a much more effective servant of your clients.
You know that of which you speak, and so they trust you. You're able to build up credibility very quickly. You understand the industry. That's
That
terrific.
has always been our selling point, that we want to sit next to our clients and be their partners, rather than just waiting for them to throw legal questions our way.
Zach, you certainly have covered a lot of ground in the investment industry and financial side of your practice. You talked on or touched on entertainment law. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing in that practice area.
Sure. So as the firm has grown, some of that has been opportunistic, some of it has been intentional, that is really targeting particular natural extensions and such. And where we are right now is I think of our firm as having two sort of central poles, and then different services surround those. One of them is very much the financial services and blockchain kind of space we've talked about, but the other is like this entertainment media and intellectual property space. So I myself don't do as much in that. I dabble in it, but I am fortunate to have colleagues who spend all their time thinking about this. And they bring in clients who are musicians, visual artists, I mean, filmmakers and such. and people setting up record labels, all kinds of things. And so there are business and corporate projects in this area. So setting up businesses, there's plenty of contract negotiation, as you might imagine. There's a lot of protection of intellectual property. So setting up in the first place the right way, and then also protecting people or going after people if things are going wrong on that space, on that side. The intellectual property piece extends into patents as well as trademark and copyright. As you can imagine, the trademark and copyright show up more heavily on the entertainment side, but that's why I say entertainment and media along with intellectual property. And yes, we are not right now located in LA, so we're not at the heart of where a lot of entertainment media happens. Um, but we have clients out in California, we have clients down in Nashville kind of area, we have clients in lots of places. And in the Chicago area, there aren't a lot of firms who do this. So in that sense, again, I think we punch above our weight in that these are people who have worked at big firms, who have worked on these kinds of projects, who have famous clients on their resumes. And we are here to help, whether they're Midwestern folks who are looking for law firms here locally who do that, or people further afield who are looking for law firms, probably don't charge like New York rates. Um, and we are happy to work in those areas. We do a lot of work there.
Zach, you provided a lot of insight into your background and how that's really given you an advantage, I would think, having become an expert in finance and then using that as your focus and practice. There's you're a dual threat. You know finance. You've got a tremendous background in law. When you think about your success, are there other resources maybe that have contributed to that success? If so, share that with us.
Oh, I mean, certainly. So, first of all, just looking internally, I'm very fortunate to have the colleagues that I have who do a lot of who have experience in areas that I have much less experience in. So that's been great being able to have a broader team that can work more projects. So that's been a good thing. Then looking outside of our firm, I likewise work with other law firms. So, for example, Jim Kopecki and his team, or Andrew Gordon and his group, that we send each other projects pretty often. And I'm happy to work with them. That they have more experience with like SEC litigation and tax law, respectively. And it's great to team up with folks like that. Outside of the law, likewise, you mentioned that I'm in the finance kind of space, and so we've worked with various fund managers. Um, I'm happy to do that. I mean, so and I'm grateful that they send work our way, and we in turn send work out their way. And but then it's not just finance here. We do a lot of work in litigation, and then I mean, frankly, BlueStar has been a huge help in that. That is, we we can do the just the legal research and such and the brief drafting, but goodness, where the rubber meets the road all too often is handling documents galore, and that can be a chore and a half. I can think about some of the early projects we worked on, pretty significant litigation, that because the documents didn't seem that numerous, we just handled it ad hoc ourselves. That's not a good way to go. Um, that has led to some challenges, a lot of late nights and last minute fire drills. So working with a group like BlueStar and like yourself, um, groups that really know this, that is, you've been able to help us find these documents and track them down and manage our relativity instance and such, help us with finding things, that is, in the first document review and just responding to requests, but also getting ready for trial, which fortunately we actually do have some trials once in a while. That has been a tremendous help. So no, we're grateful for a lot of vendors and partners, strategic partners out there who have helped us through this.
It takes a village,
It does. It does.
right? Now for the fun stuff, Zach. How do you recharge? What do you do to relax? Do you have any passions, hobbies, favorite places to travel?
Let's see. When my aging knees still allow it, I still like running out by the lakefront. When they're acting up, I can still bike quite a bit, so that's fun. It's getting to Oscar season, so I'm catching up on all the on nominated films. I've always been into films, not as much as some of my colleagues here who are in the entertainment and media space, and it's amazing how many movies they've seen. But I enjoy
Wow.
that quite a bit. And yes, a good deal of travel. I mean, I did study abroad while I was an undergrad, and then went to grad school overseas also. So that gave me a start on traveling. I've kept up with that some. So some plans for the spring and summer on that too. But I
That's
think we're
terrific. Any last thoughts, Zach? I think we're going to wrap it up. It's been a pleasure, but
Well, I mean, again, you have been a great help to me through the whole duration of this firm. Before that, which gives you some idea of how long we've known each other. But
Yeah.
thank you once again very much for everything you do for us in our litigation practices and elsewhere. And thank you very much for this today. It's been great chatting with you.
Same. Thank you so much, Zach. Appreciate your time. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.